So I'm here at the Hafenhuis in Antwerp in Belgium, and I have behind me a brand new car. This is the BMW iX5 Hydrogen. Now this isn't a production car, this is what's called a pilot fleet car. There's a bunch of them over here and they're being used to test out the concept of hydrogen for transportation. Now, as you probably know as an EV enthusiast, there is some skepticism about whether hydrogen is the way forward or whether it's batteries. We should probably remain agnostic about that for now. This car, we're going to take this car for a test drive. We're going to understand how the drivetrain works, and we're going to also see the car being refueled here in Antwerp from renewable hydrogen. From hopefully you can see these windmills behind me where the renewable hydrogen is coming from. I hope you enjoy this video and learn a little bit more about what this car could potentially offer. But before we get into the details, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So we have a pretty standard BMW X5 interior here. Lovely place to be. Infotainment screen, there's a head-up display. I won't bother showing you that, but it's a standard one you get from an X5. Typical BMW steering wheel, all the kind of cup holders and spaces. Very, very normal kind of experience in the front of this car. So this area will be very familiar to anyone who's driven a BMW EV or any EV really. You've got a start-stop button, you've got this kind of gear stick-like contraption. You press the button on the sides to enable changing modes, and you put forward for reverse, back for drive, and then there's a B mode as well. You've got various power modes: Sport, Comfort, Eco Pro. There's also hold and an electric parking brake. So all very standard, familiar to anyone who's driven an EV, exactly the same experience. The steering wheels also have these paddles. There's one here, another one up here, and this is again something you find very typical for an EV. You can change the regen, make it a bit fiercer regen or a softer regen depending on your tastes. There's plenty of room in the back of this car. You don't really lose anything because of the hydrogen drivetrain, because one of the hydrogen tanks is under here, so you do get a quite pronounced central bump, similar to the petrol version. The other one is under here as well, but plenty of leg room, plenty of headroom, a very typical rear seat experience from a BMW X5. No change there. And there are these magazine holders for your kids to keep their copies of Hydrogen Weekly or whatever it is kids read these days. And likewise, the boot space doesn't appear to be compromised by the fact this is a hydrogen drivetrain. You've got a powered release here and this powered tailgate as well. That's rather cool. Nice flat entry point, so if you want to slide something in there, you've got a little bit of space here. That's pneumatically controlled as well, which is all rather nice. Got a bit of space for, you don't need to put charging cables in there because this car doesn't have charging cables. If I go around the side, so this is a typical 40-20-40. You've got a fairly flat boot. It's maybe not entirely flat, but plenty of capacity. Do have a look at the written review for the exact litre capacity of this boot. But you know, you're getting a loads of space in the back here for luggage.
Here we have the fuel cell system with 125 kilowatts net power. You can see the stack with 383 cells inside. The DC-DC converter underneath, converting the voltage to the vehicle board net. We have the air duct with air filter, with the compressor underneath the system. So we use exhaust recuperation. The power of the compressor is about 25 kilowatts, and we use about 5 kilowatts from the exhaust of our fuel cell system. On the other side, we have the fuel supply, the hydrogen on this side, which comes here at this pipe into the fuel cell. and it's recirculated within the fuel cell, and we inject as much hydrogen as we need for producing the electric energy. On the left-hand side, we have the tank system with two tanks. The first one is in the middle tunnel of the car. Contains approximately 4 kilograms of hydrogen, and the total storage volume is approximately 100 liters. And the second one is half the size with additional 2 kilograms and 50 liters of volume under the rear seat. Here you can see the high voltage battery with a power of 170 kilowatts and a storage capacity of approximately 2 kilowatt hours. So it's a very, very small battery we use, very small in terms of capacity, but very potential in terms of power. So, and here you can see the electric drive, the electric motor of our iX. It's the conventional electromotor of our car. Here you can see the pipe. It has a diameter of 6 millimeters and an inner diameter of approximately 3 millimeters. And you can refuel 6 kilogram hydrogen within 3 to 5 minutes.
We open it, it looks like a normal gasoline. And then all we do, we take the hitch over here. Click it on, press the button, and the process starts. I'd like to point out one more thing here, and that is how small the cable is where the hydrogen comes in, because that really shows the efficiency of hydrogen. Having a very, very small cable is all that it takes. You can also feel it. There's not much in there. There's the communication line in it, and that's about it, because hydrogen has a high energy density going in. And the good thing is it is 100% full. You always get, the tank is 100% full. It's not like with electric charging that, after 80% it really becomes slow. Here it's just 100% and that's it.
So first thing to realize about this iX5 is it is based on a standard current model X5. They basically stripped out the petrol-based drivetrain and put in a fuel cell drivetrain. So you've got the battery and the fuel cell working together to provide 295 kilowatts of power, which is 401 horsepower, which is pretty sizable. So this car can hit 62 miles per hour or 100 kilometers an hour in under 6 seconds, which means it's pretty rapid for a large SUV. The hydrogen fuel cell has a 6 kilogram capacity, which is enough for over 500 kilometers of range. So that's about 313 miles, which puts it on par with some of the best EVs in terms of range. But of course, when you are refueling this car, you can do it in a much shorter period than you would do if you were driving an EV. So as this is a standard X5, the safety tech is very similar to a standard X5. They haven't put the adaptive cruise control on this car, but it has regular cruise control, warnings, all that kind of stuff. There's nothing particularly unusual in that respect. So when I drove the Toyota Mirai, which admittedly was the first edition, not the latest model, one of the things that was very obvious after driving a lot of EVs was that there's a lot of lag in the acceleration in that car. Now you don't get that with this car. This is a fast car, and if you put your accelerator, I won't be able to do that right now on this road because it's a 50k limit road and I'm already going that fast. But if you put your foot down on this car, you feel it immediately like you would in a regular EV, and that's because there's a lot more energy available from the battery to help propel the car forward immediately. This is a really important thing for a BMW because, you know, BMWs are famous for their driving experience. You don't want to get in a BMW and feel underwhelmed by the performance, and you certainly don't in this car. It feels like a well sorted BMW X5 sports SUV. Interestingly, the hydrogen fuel train isn't as heavy as a full battery fuel train would be. So this car is about the same weight as a plug-in hybrid, which is still admittedly a bit heavier than just a standard petrol car. But that means that the handling is a little bit more nimble than you might have experienced from something like an iX or a large battery electric SUV. Even around a town like this car feels quite comfortable. Obviously it's rather big to be driving around in an urban environment, you know, as all SUVs are, but it's, you know, the steering is light enough, and, you know, because the delivery is very smooth, you know, it's quite a calming experience to drive around a city environment. So unlike Toyota, BMW isn't putting all its eggs in the hydrogen basket. You know, BMW has a great range of all electric cars and has no intention of ceasing to produce those and switching to hydrogen. But it does see a slot in the market for hydrogen, particularly for long range, people who would want to do long distances and want to have that 4-minute refueling capability that this car has. Hydrogen can also appeal to people who, you know, live in a block of flats, don't have easy access to local charging, and also towing a trailer. It's not true of all the hydrogen refueling stations that I've seen, but many of them are designed in a similar fashion to a regular petrol station, where you actually drive through, which means that if you're carrying a trailer, you could actually stop and refuel without actually having to take the trailer off, which isn't the case with electric charging points. Another potential benefit of hydrogen is that in very hot or very cold weather, it doesn't change the range of the vehicle significantly. So this car has had extensive testing in very cold conditions in Sweden to show, but to prove that point. You know, whereas, you know, if you drive a battery electric car, you know that you're going to lose maybe 20% of the range in cold conditions or very, very hot conditions, due to having to condition the battery properly and, you know, having to you know, use some of the energy in the battery to heat the car. For heating this car, there is heat as a byproduct of the fuel cell system, and that can be used for heating. Obviously that is a kind of sign of a slight lack of efficiency in the drivetrain, because you are having heat as a byproduct that you're not making effective use of unless you use it for heating. But the plus side is that you can use that for heating the car without actually having any penalty whatsoever. So a lot of the conversation revolving around fuel cell cars, you know, comparing them to batteries, is to do with efficiency. Now the fuel cell in this car is about 60% efficient, which is better than some previous fuel cell cars. However, it's also a lot more efficient than fossil fuel cars. They're very inefficient in terms of their energy usage. So it's kind of like sits in a middle ground between those two. So now that I'm on a highway, I can talk about another aspect of the controversy between petrol cars, battery electric cars, and fuel cell cars now, which is that, you know, how much fuel usage you have at high speed. Now it feels like battery electric cars are very inefficient at high speed because they seem to drop a lot more in range when you go at high speed, and also being able to maintain that speed. Some of that is to do with the way batteries deliver power, and fuel cells don't have a problem continuing to deliver their maximum power for long periods. This car has a top speed of 180 kilometers an hour, which is a little over 100 miles an hour. And for the German market, where you have autobahns where you can actually drive at those legally at those kinds of speeds, being able to do so efficiently is a plus as well. So as I said in the introduction to this video, this car is part of a pilot fleet of 2-digit numbers. Now they're not prototypes. Well, they are prototypes, but they're kind of beyond prototypes because it's a fully functional, it's a very nicely laid out car. they're designed for people to try out the whole concept of hydrogen. On the other hand, there is no price attached to this car. BMW is not talking about how much it's costing. They're not going to go into production runs. It feels like this car could be a production car, and they could sell it in the same markets as the Toyota Mirai or the Hyundai Nexo, but that's not what BMW is doing with this particular car at this stage. And they seem to have most of their fleet here for the launch that I'm attending, but afterwards these cars will be distributed all over the world for people in different regions to try them out, and for BMW to gain knowledge about how this car behaves in those markets and in those kind of conditions. So overall then, this car drives like a BMW should, except that it's running on hydrogen. And part of the reason for that is the dynamic power delivery of the fuel cell that BMW is using. And that's assisted by a very high power battery that's just there to give it that little bit of extra, or actually quite a lot of extra oomph to really give it the kind of sense of performance that you expect from the BMW brand. So that's the BMW iX5 hydrogen. It's certainly very nice to drive, certainly an improvement on other hydrogen cars I've tried in the past. We don't know when it's going to arrive on British roads. We don't know if it's going to arrive on British roads or indeed roads elsewhere, but there's certainly a new car in the mix. Is hydrogen going to win? We don't know, but can't wait to find out where things go in the future. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel.